So, um, this is probably going to be like another kind of negative episode. Um, Not, because of anything we did wrong, but I don't know if you guys tell me if you feel it differently, but like, what is happening to my game? Uh, there was NSC Live, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago, that I did want us to talk about. I know it would have been good to talk about it like more contemporaneously, but I had a trip to go on, so that wasn't really in the cards. But it was that Tech Talk episode. I think there's a lot that could potentially be said about that. I thought it'd be a good place for us to kick off just in terms of like state of the game stuff. I'll say I think my takeaway was like they wanted that to make them appear more sympathetic in a lot of ways, and I think it was a bit of a miss. I think they were shooting for a bit of like a mea culpa on that. There's a lot of explaining about why things are kind of falling apart, and to me, the problem I had was none of it was really reassuring that there's an understanding on a good path to get back on the right track. None of it made me feel particularly good about the state of the game. None of it made me feel super sympathetic toward them. It did make me feel a tremendous amount of disappointment. And I do recall seeing in the immediate wake of the episode, somebody on Reddit like wrote an apology post to CIG for having been so aggressive in their criticisms of the state of the game. But like now I can see how bad it makes you guys feel, and that makes me feel bad for having made you feel bad. So I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but you guys, I assume you guys watched it or at least read some kind of summary of it. Like, what were your kind of immediate or initial reactions to it?
Well, I'm sure Tamm will correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a lot of the major issues stemmed from like one singular bug with the Idris that kind of cascaded and took a lot of servers out with it. I'm sure there's more to that. I just remember that being one of the big highlights of that. And it's like,
but it wasn't, just to make sure I'm following, that was like a really acute issue, right? Like that was like one specific situation, but that wasn't like the bulk of the problems with like 4.8. That was just that one, why the servers were failing like in that immediate window, right? Or did I misunderstand that?
Well, that's accurate.
Okay.
It like, so the biggest issue that was like largely preventing people from playing at all, essentially, was Idris related.
mm-hmm.
But there's a whole lot of other stuff that was known at the time and is still ongoing to some degree.
My beef with the Idris thing specifically is, so it's an understandable mistake because my understanding of it was basically a fix for the Idris that was meant for a later patch was erroneously included in the current patch. And because of the way the game coding works, the game freaked out because that wasn't meant for that patch with the way it was coded. And so that just cascaded failures after that. And my beef with that whole thing is it's an understandable mistake that would have been caught in proper testing and not pushing for a release.
Well, and yeah, and I'm not trying to like, because they have a QA department and they have people who work in that QA department. And we know this because they brought them all on for a singular video once. So we know that they have a QA department with people in that QA department who do testing. However, that being said, and again, I'm not trying to cast shade on anybody who is working, right? Like, which I think is kind of an interesting thing with these sorts of things is you literally have like three Joe Schmoes from the internet talking about how you do your job. But, I mean, kind of how this works. I honestly think their testing has been lacking for eons. Like they very much use the player base as bulk testing, and they still haven't hammered out a good way to test from PTU to live. because like with 318 should have been a wake up call, because the PTU on 318 was amazing. I don't know if you're here for that, Witty, but like it was butter. Like
Super stable.
317 was a very long lasting patch series, very stable, very good, but like very like the same features. Like there was nothing new, so people were kind of bored. And especially like this is pre-pyro, pre-salvage, because 318 was salvage, right? Like there was like hardly anything to do. And so it was very stable, but people were bored, right? And so 318 was in PTU, and we're like, dude, this is like salvage is cool. Like they're bringing all these things in. Like this is really nifty. Let's get this. And they dropped it, and it just shit the bed, because however the testing went in PTU versus in live, wherever the discrepancies were, it just fucked the servers. To a degree, there's always a chance of that happening, but I feel like they haven't, from a consumer point of view, which obviously, could be full of fallacies and inaccuracies. It feels like they haven't really done much to make the PTU more akin to the live environment and actually properly test, which I think Ray mentioned that after they came out that video. They basically were kind of sounding like their their testing environment when they push them are clean slate. Like it's just sanitized, and it's just like, okay, that the problem with that, it's good. That's good for a basic test. That's perfectly fine for a basic test, because then if something's not working, it's easier to hunt down where it's not working and fix it. But that's not a good test that's akin to your production or your live environment. So then if, like, regardless if it works or not in the fucking clean environment, when you push it over, there's a lot of chances that all kinds of shit will break. And that's just kind of how that works when you're doing it like that, which is bad. So I don't know. I don't think they test enough. I don't think they test properly for the live environment. And the Idris was a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we still have a bunch of bugs. Like to this day, knock on wood. I mean, as far as I know, there was no patch pushed today. There's one Wednesday. Hopefully, we get some fixes with that, because they're bringing in fucking more events. But like, we still have bugs. Like I think it was over the weekend. Oni was having issues with inventory and shit. Like he like geared up for something and then went out and he like literally had nothing, and it's just like, which I assume is probably server desync on the inventory side, right? Like your client shows, I put this shit on, and then you leave, and then the server goes, oh wait, actually no, you didn't, and then you didn't, like I'm assuming that's probably what happened. But like, again, all that shit, like the more that's present and the more they don't hammer out their fucking processes. And I mean, like, we're talking about hammering out processes. They've been at this for over a decade. You'd think they'd have some stuff hammered out, but it's just like, it just contributes to an experience that's very hard to play,
Well, that's kind of what
at
broke
least
me
in
a
the
little bit.
testing phase.
It's kind of what pissed me off a little bit about the whole thing. Was it's supposed to be like, all right, look, like we do this transparent development thing, and so we're gonna, share with you what the problems are. But it just shone a light on how poorly handled I think some of this stuff is. Like, yeah, when you say something like, oh, the problem is that we are now implementing and creating new stuff faster than we can sufficiently test it. Like, in what world can anything you guys do be said to be fast? Like, nothing about this process has been fast. So you're at a point now where you can't effectively implement content because the pace of that is outstripping your ability to test it. That's not a good thing to have said out loud. Like, it's one of the you immediately want to be like, are you sure you want to have said that? Because that doesn't mean what you think it means, to me at least.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a guy mention the other day that between the time when he initially committed money to this project and like today, that represented 46% of his life passing by. Now, obviously, he hasn't just been sitting there waiting for the game to come out. So he hasn't given 46% of his life to Star Citizen. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean when you look at it in that context, like it is kind of staggering. And to your point, Tim, about like three schmucks on the internet talking about your work, like I want to hit on that for a second because this is one of my least favorite things that always gets thrown at anybody who tries to have any like critical thought about this project is how many games have you developed and released, or how many years of experience do you have in developing? Like none. And I don't need it. It's like I don't need to be a Michelin star chef to know that something that I'm eating is bad, right? Like I don't have to be able to go in the back and be able to cook it better. I can, but I don't have to be able to do that just to be able to say like this tastes bad. Right. And so if you put a plate in front of me and you say, here is a steak, sir, and it's $150 and it's bad, I get to say it's bad. If you produce something for public consumption, the public gets to consume it however they want. And that consumption may involve criticism. It may involve praise. But none of it, you lose that control. And that's especially true where people pay you for that right to consume. And so in this case, like, I don't have to know a goddamn thing about game development to be able to say this isn't working and it's not right and you need to do better because I pay you for it. And it's not that I'm in a position of authority over the people doing it, but I do have a right to have that thought, and in all honesty, that perspective is probably much more valuable. Right? I am sure that because of the nature of this game, the audience involved with the game now skews very heavily toward like tech nerds and like gearheads, people who like this stuff, right? But your general audience, assuming you want to have one, and I would imagine you do if you want to compete with GTA 6, it's not going to be people who know shit about game development or care about your sob story about how, unfortunately, our test environment for the other test environment doesn't quite line up and it's not synced up to reproduce that testing environment. Like, enough of the bullshit. Like, we understand we are playing an alpha, but you've got to find some better way to know the state of your game. And I think Ray's frustration as he was kind of hearing that and reading that was something that I did sympathize with. Well, I did not sympathize with like the woe is us, like, we're just giving you guys too much content. We can't keep up with it. Like that was such a thinly veiled attempt to gloss over the fact that not testing your shit properly is why you're here and why you are like years behind where you should be. And so, yeah, I hate that, like that idea that like people can't criticize, and that tends to be this very like community-based reactions. Like, you don't know how hard this is. Like, I think we said this last time, like, who the fuck told you to make 2 games at once? And who told you to build the tools to make the game as you're making the game? No one said to do that. So you don't get extra credit for it.
It was more like, from my perspective, it's like, okay, I'm not in that space, right? I'm not a subject matter expert on game dev or anything like that, right? So from my perspective, my thought is that, like, among other things, they're not testing it properly, right? That's my perspective. I'm not in QA. I'm not in video game testing, right? That's not my space. That's not my area of expertise. So that's just my opinion and my guess. From a consumer standpoint, shit's fucked and they need to fix something. I don't know what. And you can't tell me that's not the case because it is, So like from a consumer standpoint, I think it's fair for anyone who is a proper consumer. Like, it's not fair for someone who doesn't play the game to be like, well, that's fucked, and I've never touched it or even consumed it in any way, shape, or form, but it's fucked and I won't touch, like, no. Like, but as somebody who has interacted with the game, it's messed up and all that. And I think that's a fair assessment for anybody. I'm just saying that, like, there's numerous times in numerous jobs and career fields that I've worked in where I've had somebody on the quote unquote consumer end try to be like, well, you need to do your job like this. And it's just like, oh, okay, you lost me. Like, you can have a problem with how, like what you're feeling when I'm doing my job. but now you've gone off that path, and now you're trying to act like you know what you're talking about, and it's becoming very quickly clear to me that you don't. So it's fine for you to express, I have a problem with XYZ. That's fine. Perfect for you to have an opinion, and I can take that information and feedback and like modulate what I'm doing if need be, you know? Obviously, like, part of what I did was law enforcement, and it's like, I don't like how I'm being arrested. I don't care.
Sir, these cuffs are too tight.
Get that a lot. Like, yeah, I can fit fingers in there, buddy. You're good. But like, yeah, I mean, like, so that was where my caveat was coming from. Not that like you can't have an opinion on the state of the game. It's more that like I was like, okay, I have an opinion on the state of the game, and I think, yeah, that I don't know what I'm talking about from an expert perspective. Here's part of the problem. That was basically where I was coming from.
I didn't think you were suggesting that we couldn't have that opinion, but I think I know there are people who take your sentiment and they carry it a few steps further down, which is that like you can't criticize unless you've done it, and that's just so fucking like sophomoric and in the point of view. Like I'm focused on the outcome and the output, which is what I do get to criticize. Like this food tastes bad. I'm not going to come back and say, oh, well, your bechamel is breaking because you didn't temper it. Like, no, I'm not doing that, right? But if you're going to have the transparent development piece where you then sit on a YouTube screen and tell us how you're making the sausage, then I'm going to say, well, the meat's bad, so use better meat. Like, so, like I don't know what it takes to test all this, but I do know that it's being tested poorly if you're admitting on camera that there is a mismatch in those environments. So sorry, Zip.
No, you're fine. I'm just kind of cutting in. I think with us not being game developers, I think there are a couple things that are still extremely obvious for everyone kind of watching the development of the game. With the main problem being they rush a patch to meet a deadline, which is typically some sale or another. Whether that's Invictus, Alien Week, whatever it is, they have to get it out by X date. Disregard whatever testing needs to happen. It's going to be out by that date. And it shoots them in the foot every time. And they've done this for years. It's not a habit or attitude that I honestly see them changing, because at the end of the day, they're making more money now than they ever have, regardless of the state of a patch. What I would like to see, honestly, is fewer patches over a whole year, like a patch every 2 months, is a lot for a game, in my opinion, especially when those are kind of content patches. Even if they did like 2 a year, I think we would see a huge improvement with maybe 3 or 4 months of testing for each of those patches before they go in. Not trying to meet those sale deadlines.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case that the sale deadlines are a major driver behind this problem, right? Because like that must happen. The sales will not move. The sales will not be postponed. It is they're having created or decided this was the funding model they wanted, which again, no one said they had to do it this way, that they're beholden to that. And so they can under no circumstances miss a deadline linked to a sale. And we saw that very explicitly this time around. It's always the case, but I feel like this one in particular, this one meaning Invictus, not Alien Week, was so clear that was the problem, that was they were rushing. They had that crash the night before to get it out, and then they put the broken ass Ironclad in that incredibly embarrassing state. And I don't think it's ever been brought into like sharper relief exactly how much everything is driven entirely by the sales and marketing side of that business, as opposed to anything related to game development. And so, hey, that just opens up the door to more people for criticisms, right? Because some people have experience with sales and marketing, and so they can feel free to critique on that basis. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to understand what the Idris situation was again, because it was the way you were describing it. It was like the patch was referencing a version of the Idris that's not yet in game, And so the game was looking for some elements of the ship that weren't there. And when it didn't find them, it caused the server to.
Again, I'm not a game developer, so I'm going to botch the explanation. But it seems like when an object is in the game, it has some sort of identifier to say what patch this belongs to, kind of thing. And so when the game looks for this item, it reads whatever this identifier is. Okay, you belong here, and it's able to interact with it successfully. But since this one was put in, this fix, it basically updated the Idris to, was it a 4.8.1? Some future patch that it wasn't currently. So that when the game read this, it's like, oh, this thing doesn't belong. And so it caused a cascade of errors of it trying to not blow up, basically. My layman understanding, just for the record.
And so I haven't been on since that SC Live. Is the Idris still not available in game?
No, they put it back in pretty quick.
Oh, they fixed it. Okay.
Yeah. It basically like when the server checked the Idris and tried to like spawn it, it did like a reference check on the Idris and then went, oh, this is incompatible with the patch that we're supposed to be running. And then because of that, there's a system built in to go, okay, if we let this go, this could cause data corruption. So we're going to go ahead and kill the server. So then it would kill the server. So then it'd spin up a new server and then be like, okay, we're good now. We're good, guys. And then it'd be like, oh, let's do a check. Oh, this is incompatible. Let's kill the server. So that at least based on my understanding of what they said, that was basically what happened. That's why they because they had like rolling.
Yeah.
They had to make it so that people couldn't spawn an Idris when they opened up a new server. Otherwise, it would just corrupt the next one.
I mean, look, putting all the disaster that is for the game I want to play aside, that's a pretty funny error.
Well, it highlights the lack of testing, because if that particular bug or fix had been put in the P2 for a day, someone was going to spawn an Idris at some point, and that would have been noticed.
Well, but even non P2, if you spin up exactly that patch because it was in the patch, right? If you spin up that exact patch, at least as I understand it, you spin up that exact patch, and then QA just runs through and spawns every single fucking ship, they should have caught that. As I understand the issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I could be misunderstanding the issue, and it could have been something pertaining to like the live server specifically, or you know, what have you. But like, I'm just saying, like, it seems like their testing parameters aren't anywhere near what they should be.
It was a low-hanging fruit that shouldn't have gone through, basically.
Yeah, that broke the game.
And so, the line from Jared that, like, it's all meaningless without action is interesting, because I don't know that we've seen them, to your point, Zip, deviate from their MO ever. Like I think he said that they're considering whether or not they have to delay the patch, take stuff out of it, whatever. I guess that's not all that significant to me. Like, it would be significant if they actually delay a major sale, because this kind of stuff is happening. That would be, I think, a case of putting your money where your mouth is.
Well, it would suck for us, but it would build a little bit of trust, right?
Yeah. I mean, and for me, it doesn't suck because I'm now on hashtag no cash till game work.
Yeah.
Situation. So I completely ignored Alien Week. Didn't even open the store page once while I was away. So I had no clue what any of that new stuff cost.
You didn't buy a Tweely?
Nope. Didn't even look at it until I got back. And so speaking of, let's move on from the post-mortem disaster and get to what Tamm has been itching to talk about for weeks and weeks now, which is the rail-in.
I like it.
This is bad radio, Tamm. You got to get any more than that.
Well, so I feel like, going back to pre-release, and Witty can't hear me now because he took his ears off. Going back to pre-release, the Raylan was, to me, kind of an interesting one because like the cargo was supposed to be in these like stupid triangular boxes, which was a terrible concept because it's like you want to physically, especially like if it's auto loading, nobody cares. But once you go to the manual loading only, basically, which is where we're at, which is horrific, and I would still like to bring back auto loading. Once you go to that, it's like I do not want to put individual fucking boxes in little triangles. That's terrible. That just sounds horrible across the board. Like worst cargo ship in existence.
Well, there are some people who live and breathe that kind of gameplay.
Putting cargo in triangles? No.
No. Obviously not you. We know not you. We're saying there are people.
But I seriously would be shocked if any notable minority would be fine with that. Like I wanted the ship because per the description, it was like a 3-story ship. It was very unique. The price point was great for the size of ship that was being offered, right? And kind of like the Ryland, although the Ryland has notably more use, like concept to concept, right? But like,
wait, sorry, you lost me there.
We're talking
about the Ryland. Okay.
BMM. I'm sorry. Kind of like the BMM. Like I have no desire, very little desire to set up a traveling shopping mall. Like I genuinely don't care, right? I just want the BMM because I think it's cool. I have no delusions that I'm gonna consistently get a bunch of board members to crew it and drive around and be like, "Come join in my shopping mall." Like, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's a cool ship, and I managed to CCU the snot out of it, and so I got it very cheap. And I have a cool ship, And so the Ryland for me was going to be that because there's no way in fucking hell I'm going to put individual boxes in triangles. That's stupid. So they came out with it. I also thought the price would go up. And so that's another, I like CCUing and I like price increases because it makes my CCUs work better, I'm sorry. I like price increases that I can profit off of, not price increases that
there you go.
I can't profit off of. Anyway, so Ryland went up $175, which is a very large price increase, and is almost double, which is crazy. And they changed the stupid triangles, so now as a cargo grid that's basically on par with like a whole B, except it's actually, in my opinion, it's easier because it's all like back accessible, whereas the whole B you kind of have to like move more. So like the cargo grid is very accessible. Has 2 tractor beams that I've been told are very nicely placed. I haven't used it. I haven't run any cargo in it. I just like driving around. I do plan to run cargo in it at some point in my life. It's not a high priority. I don't like manual cargo. Anyway, so fixed the cargo issue. So the cargo grid is just a sticky cargo grid that's accessible from the back, kind of like the raft, except accessible instead of being like up and under. It holds 640, I think, if I recall correctly, something like that. 600 or 700. Actually, it might be 7 something. Point is, very good amount of cargo. So like from a cargo perspective, it's great. It is easily one of the best cargo ships in that like size class. In my opinion, obviously. The triangle thing they added, you could basically press a button and little like triangular armored plates come over your cargo, which maybe helps with piracy. It's probably just more of a cosmetic, honestly, but whatever. It's cool. You get your triangles and you don't have to, feel pain and tears. But then on top of that, the interior is very cool unless you're xenophobic like John. The cockpit, you've got very, very good visibility for a ship of that size and class. It handles like a boat, but you have 4 size 4 guns as the pilot, which is very good for a fucking cargo ship. You've got 2 turrets with dual size 4s, which is pretty good for a cargo ship. Yeah, like overall, in my opinion, especially if you're able to get it at the original price, because at $400, there's a lot more options to like at least consider, right? But like at 225, which is what it was previously, um, especially if you CCU'd that 225, uh, I think it's probably one of the best all-rounder ships you can buy for that price. Like, it's insanely good. Like, again, the interior is very cool, great visibility. You've got good firepower, great shielding, great cargo. Like, the downsides, it handles like a boat, and the because of all the alien like voodoo garbage, like there's like a pretty significant like animation to get in and out of the pilot seat. You've got to take an
I see.
elevator to get down to like the bottom floor and then move over to the
But
other
it's so
elevator and take
cool.
that to get outside. Like stuff like that. So like it's like the whole B is much faster to get into the pilot seat and go, you know? So like if that's really a huge priority, then maybe the whole B wins out. I think the whole B also you can put a uh not an ICD, but a Atlas, the mech with the
Yeah, yeah.
tractor beam. You could put that on the ramp on the whole B, or not the ramp, but the elevator, and
Mhm.
then take the elevator up and then just jump out of the mech and leave it on the elevator. So there's technically room for that in the whole B, whereas I don't know if that would fit um with the Rylan. But like other than that, like again, if as long as you don't mind it being boaty, in handling, because it's pretty chunky, um, and the speed of getting it out and stuff, like it is very very good for. I mean, you're doing cargo and pirates show up. It's just like I mean, 4 size 4s, especially put like deadbolts or something on there. Like you're gonna do some work. Um, like I said, I'm pretty happy with it. And I believe originally the pilot didn't even have guns. I don't think. I think you just had some crappy missiles, and then the turrets were like dual 3s. Um, so like it got pretty upgunned. It's got like 2 size 3 shields. Like it's a very solid ship. Assuming you don't mind the alien aesthetic, which some people named John do. So
What about the other one? Was it the Thule? So that the so that traded out the cargo area for a hangar that works in like 6 dimensions. Like, did
so
I understand that right? Like so those like gravity pads that we find in the executive hangars when we do those. That's basically what they put inside that hangar, right? Where you can like it's 0G in there except when you're on those platforms. Is that how it actually works?
kind of, yeah. So the Rylan, on the top floor is like the flight deck and components. And so in the components, there's a little armory and then there's a docking collar. So the other one, whatever it's called, weird name ship, you lose the docking collar. And then on the bottom floor, which on the Rylan is just the elevator out and the elevator to go across the 3 decks. Um, on top of that, in the new one, and there's also an armory in both. So they have 2 armories in both ships, which is kind of nice. But um, for the other one, there's 2 doors, and they go to that back area, and that replaces like the whole back section of the ship, which on the Rylan, more or less functions as the cargo grid. Um, and so for this one, the back end is bulkier, um, and obviously hollow. And there's a door in the center back that allows ships in and out. There's a cargo grid, I believe, above and below, So you could put cargo in kind of that middle section. And then there's 4 cargo landing pads along the walls. And each one has its own gravity. So like you can literally be standing on one, look straight up and see somebody on the other one kind of thing. And then when you're coming in from the main body of the ship, there's basically a ring of like weirdly colored crap. And that's like a walkway. And that the gravity is like wherever you're standing, like straight down is like to
Down.
that. Yeah. And so like you can just like literally run for like circle laps on that.
I will say on that, it's a little bit jarring. The first time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like they could smooth out that whole animation and looking around when you're running around that.
I was gonna ask, like, and that works in the game.
It works.
I didn't have any.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, like from a technical perspective, yeah, it works. Like there's no like
I'm just saying
game mechanic issues. No,
that has written all over it. One of the things that would bring the game to a screeching halt.
Surprisingly, no, but
it works fine.
Mhm.
And I didn't have any issues in terms of disorientation or anything. Personally, I feel like they put a lot of like random stuff that like looks like it has a place to be, but kind of like blocks your vision to where it helps prevent that like, what the fuck, I'm on the ceiling kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But like basically like as you're running along, like every so often be like, boom, there's like an open spot and there's like a pad for a ship kind of thing. But I like that one too. I also have that one.
Do you own both then?
Yeah, I own both.
Nice.
It's $425, so it was
he
kind
had
of convenient.
He had 15 CCU Raylands, so he just decided to upgrade one to the other thing.
That was
actually that's a pretty good deal.
I had a bunch of CCUs to the Ryland, and I had 3 or 4 ships like either as Rylands or poised to become them if it jumped and I had a use for them kind of thing. So I just took my I think I used my Hurricane and popped that over and then jumped up.
But you love the Hurricane. It seems like a very cool. Seems like a very cool idea. But I guess with all the recent armor and weapon changes, it feels like a snub carrier is probably less effective than we'd want it to be.
So, and that is kind of the interesting thing with it is like I think the general consensus from everybody in the org is this thing's fucking worthless and I'm not getting it, which I can understand. Because it kind of is worthless and you probably shouldn't get it. I just got it because I like it. Like it basically, it like comes back to the Ryland in terms of I was going to have the Ryland just because I thought it was cool, regardless of the practicality of it. And this, I think, is cool and it has less practicality for me, but like I think it's a cool ship, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get it, kind of thing. That was kind of my thought process with it. I do think that like for the vast majority of people, they should not get it, especially versus the Ryland. Get the Ryland, like hands down. Get the Ryland, like because they're identical. Like the crew quarters is identical. So level 1 is entry, level 2 is crew quarters, and level 3 is flight deck and engineering, right? Flight deck is identical across, like flight deck and engineering are identical across the board, but there's no docking collar in the second one. Habitation, crew quarters, whatever, is identical across the board, and then the entry is identical, other than the new one having those 2 doors that lead back. So like for the most part, you're going to get the same experience either way, like same weapon loadouts, everything. Like there's no big reason to go with this one over the Ryland, unless for some reason you prefer having that interior space back there. You can put, I think it's like 64 SU of cargo. So you could do that, but like the difficulty of getting that in and out without like some sort of dedicated craft is like crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be terribly practical.
No, it's not. So, like I said, I didn't get it because of practicality reasons. I just got it because I think it's a cool ship and I wanted it. And I could get it for, a very heavy discount. But yeah, I general, like if people are like, what is the on high recommendation? Get the Ryland. Like this is not, the second ship is not the ship for the majority of people, which is, I actually did play into my,
Well,
like, it's like one of those things where it's like, well, if most people aren't going to have it, then I'll be one of the few.
so the way I kind of see the Tweely, is there a proper way to say that, by the way?
I don't fucking know. Like, I'm sure some
Yeah,
video
I mean,
has it, but
yeah, I mean, I'm sure the video they launched it, they say it. I thought it was the Tiuli or something like that.
Tiuli.
Tiuli.
Okay. So I do think it's, as Tamm said, it is a really cool ship. When it comes to utility, because it's meant for combat, right? Especially against players, I don't really see it being all that interesting. There's a lot of other combinations when it comes to manned ships and compositions I'd rather go with over a Thule. But it could have its niches where it's like, hey, if I need to take a bunch of dudes to go gather something that's kind of hard to find out there in the middle of nowhere, I could fly down in the Thule, have them all disperse in their snubs as they go find the thing and come back. I could see it being useful there. But mostly I kind of see the ship as, how like certain car shows, they have this really cool tech car that they're never going to release that has these super cool features. I kind of see it like that, where it's a proof of concept where down the line
they're concept cars.
Yeah. So I see it as kind of a concept ship, but one that you can actually fly. Where down the line we might see some more of that different, gravity tech, different
stuff.
Kinds of carriers and stuff like that. Yeah, that might bear some more utility.
I can see that. I also think your point about the use case there is fair. I guess I tend to view things from a combat oriented perspective, and that's not everything in the game. So, if I do have 4 people who I want to go look for something for me, I guess this is a ship.
Yes, yeah.
That's another very niche use case, but I suppose that's a possibility. Did they release any? There wasn't anything else really new that came out during Alien Week, right?
New? I don't believe so. Unless I'm forgetting something somehow.
No, it was just those 2.
Just those 2. Well, then that seems like that's most of it. I mean, what else can we cover?
Well, the hope for Squadron 42 release this year has been somewhat rekindled in certain corners of the internet.
Has it?
One thing. Yeah. If you're one of the lucky few to get an invite for a special event happening this October.
That's right, yeah. They're only inviting certain people to this October event. But I mean, there's nothing, rephrase, careful how we say this. There's nothing about that has been indicating so far that it is tied to a Squadron 42 release announcement, whatever. That's just kind of speculation. Then again, there's never been anything official that has pushed off the Squadron date. So we're in this spot where we're all kind of just floating in the
We do have a Squadron 42 newsletter tomorrow, though, which who knows what that'll have.
Hey, the last episode, we did the math on the date from 30 days when the refund window closed on the Odins. What did we land on? Was it June 26th?
I know we've passed the 30-day mark. I just don't.
I think so.
I think we're out from it, right?
Yeah, we're past it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's Squadron.
Are you saying they're announcing it till late tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Squadron letter could have some interesting update in it.
2027.
Yeah. Hold the line. All right. Have any of you guys haven't gotten a chance to get in and play around with whatever this heavy armor stuff is yet, right?
No, but I'm excited for it. It looks really cool. Even if it's in the pledge store, I'm gonna try and get a set.
I hope it's in the pledge store. I don't want to have to actually play to earn it. That's an
Filthy
absurd
play wall. That was stupid.
absurd, the most absurd approach to this game that they want me to actually go deal with Wicklow for this shit. It does look cool. I mean, it doesn't really seem to fit with this game right now.
Well, it's going to change the ground meta dramatically, especially for like contested zones, for example. If a couple of guys get down there with that, like you're not getting through the door.
I guess I wasn't thinking of contested zones. I was thinking more about like a distribution center jump town type of setting, because I was going to say is basically like anybody dumb enough to be caught wearing that is just going to get annihilated by any ship that gets like the air team is just going to completely wreck you. I mean, like they're big, they're visible, they're slow, right? And so I guess in an interior space like a contested zone, it could have some value, but I've had a hard time seeing how people trying to, like, you land your Tiuli, 24 of your closest friends wearing their heavy armor sets manage to make their way out from the gravity assisted pads and start their slow trek toward the jump down facility, only to just get strafed by anything in the sky.
Well, what would make the thing really cool and kind of negate some of that negative is if, like, you had not a jump pack, but something like it to where it could slow your descent from a high up drop to where I don't have to walk 100 miles.
Yeah, I don't think
2 miles an hour.
Man. I don't think they're
not.
that.
No, but it'd be cool.
Yeah.
The biggest downside to that is like you jump and then you like land 10K off target. And it's like,
well,
that's a skill issue at that point.
Time to yeah, right. It's a skill issue. A lot of people involved. Your like ops planner, your pilot, and then you in the armor being like, yeah, I guess I should jump now. But I do think those look pretty cool.
I look forward to seeing how they operate, especially in live. Like testing is one thing, but like in live, like getting some tests once we get it there, because it's like, how well do these hold up against like anti-air, for example, right? Because like if CIG was like, hey, I want this to be competitive and actually like be a threat to like light fighters, I actually wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. That would actually be kind of a cool option. I mean, I'll just drop a size 10 on your head and then you're not a threat to anybody, but like you made me use a size 10, like
30 million credits later.
I think it's worth noting. I think it's worth noting what content they're dropping this with. That might kind of hint to the use case, because this is supposed to be launching with the
Siege of Orison.
Siege of Orison, which is entirely PvE. I forget what they call it.
Instanced.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of content where something like that could shine as you're fighting off 50 AI at a given time. So it could be intended specifically for that kind of gameplay.
That makes me wonder, though, like, so to balance that, you've got to either double or triple the number of NPCs that are fighting you, which means anyone that doesn't have some of these things is immediately at a disadvantage. And so we're once again back to better get out that credit card and go to the pledge store if you want to play this part of the game, right? Because I mean, the balance factor there is going to have to be either much more deadly or a higher volume of AI in the event, and so that necessarily has an impact on anybody who's not wearing that, right? Or am I not thinking about that correctly?
Generally speaking, CIG has historically been pretty good, in my opinion, with their events or their like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like a limited time event, but like their activities where it's like, hey, if there's like an actual special type of gear that you more or less need to be able to successfully do the mission, it'll be on site. So like, yes, you could go pledge a version of it. You could, go craft a version of it, but like the fucking rad suits with the worm. you can roll out there and get your own fucking rad suit on site. Like it's more ideal to show up with one already because you don't have to change and move stuff between backpacks and whatever. But like you could do that, and then you have a rad suit. So if that's where they're at, and I don't know if it is or not. I know for sure. Well, based on testing so far, it's not Wicklow only. The Wicklow version requires the parts as part of its like turn-ins. So I mean, like you got to get the parts somewhere to turn them in to get the Wicklow version of the parts. But yeah, I do think that they're using Siege as like a test bed for this for at least the PvE side. But like they have to know that like contested zones, for example, are like obvious mode for these. Like obvious, no ships to worry about, like pretty easy to like walk on target, kind of thing. Decent amount of dudes to shoot, decent amount of chance for PvP where it's like I want to be the dude who's like waiting in the corner, someone comes in and like behold the juggernaut, like I think CZs are going to see these pretty quick. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that fares in terms of damage output, damage absorption, stuff like that.
You're going to see these pretty quick to the point that it's going to be really fucking annoying, like immediately, that all the CZs are going to be is just 15 people walking toward each other very slowly. I mean, that's what it is. I think it's worth noting that there does seem to be a corresponding increase to grenade launcher damage that has been reintroduced in testing. And so it's a good thing I spent $30 to pledge 6 of those 2 years ago. So those are all just waiting. Knew the day would come. Because that seems like that may be the counterplay there is having dedicated grenadiers to take those bad boys out.
Well, and like in, for example, CZs, like there are sections where you have to do some level of light parkour, right? And
yeah,
I don't think these things are going to be able to handle that, right? And so it's like pushing into a CZ as a lighter operative, you're going to have more mobility, so you can get in weird higher spots. You're going to have more mobility, so you can actually get to spots in general, stuff like that. So, like, I don't think they're going to be like the end all be all. This is the meta, and there is no other for CZs or otherwise. I do think we'll see an uptick for sure. I mean, if nothing else, just while people are like testing them and like, I got Juggernaut suit. Where do I go kill people? CZs, like,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we'll see that a lot.
Absolutely not to complete them, but people will bring them down there just to be pains in the ass about it. And so they'll go in as far as they can go till they hit one of those platforming areas, and then they'll just park.
Well, there's no reason they can't get knocked out and tractor beamed over. Like there are ways around.
Can they get knocked out in wearing one of those things? Has anyone talked about that?
That is something I really want to try, because I would love to like white suit, like intentionally white suit, and you just like run around and just like knocking people on the head, like they're like trying to turn, and you're like knock them on the head.
He's moving too fast.
Pull out a tractor beam and like whip them off the edge of something, just like goodbye.
And then you can read the post the next day. This guy, Tamm Delacour, is clearly hacking. Look how fast he moves. That's not normal. Oh, that'll be a great video.
I find like some pit that's like only like half height, to where like it's super easy to get out of, but like they can't because they're too heavy. You just like knock them and throw them in the pit of shame. Like
it needs to be a red undersuit.
But the white is like it's like classic, because it's like that. That's like the
classic,
old like
classic pain in the ass. That's what it is.
Just like, yeah, I definitely don't care to put on armor today.
Now I'm gonna have to go look up. Is this? Sorry, are these things being tested on Evo, or are they on the PTU?
PTU.
Okay, so there should be video of somebody using one.
Yeah, there is.
Probably.
I've seen that one video, just the guy firing, but not anybody actually trying to play that, because I really want to know like what the turn rate is like, what your angles are, because that'll tell us a lot about how they're going to be effective in PvP. All right. Well, I think we've talked about what we can talk about, unless there's any other exciting news in the Star Citizen world that I missed while I was on vacation. I did just discover a post that I want to see if this gets more replies here, that full PvP is not compatible with a widespread 1.0 vision. So I want to let that one marinate and see if any interesting thoughts pop up there. Yeah. I love a good Star Citizen shouldn't be PvP argument.
Well, with instance events and activities, that kind of that already means it's not fully PvP.
But yeah, I don't know. Even then, like, people are just, the amount of people who come out of the woodwork to clown on PvP because they're solo players trying to play an MMO and they're cranky that it's an MMO. And it's just like, look, man, that's great. I'm happy for you, but like, it is an MMO. Like, and if you don't like that fact, I honestly, it's like, I don't know why you're playing an MMO and expecting it to be a single player experience.
Yeah.
Like they literally get upset when players exist, basically. And it's just like, you know, and they'll be like, well, no, just when they're griefing me, like griefing you by doing something you don't like, basically. That's what this boils down to, is I want to play a single player game or play a multiplayer game where everyone does exactly what I want them to do and nothing else. And it's just like, that's not reality, buddy. Like, that's not.
What I'll say is, so Dune had a lot of this argument, and my take was like, look, they built it this way. This is the way the game is going to be. And then they've like pretty recently caved in the opposite direction. Now no one's playing that game anymore. So I wonder if that should be considered a good cautionary tale about changing course so radically on something like that, because it's just worth noting that like as soon as the PvP kind of died, so too did the rest of the game. But we'll see.
I don't know. CIG has made it pretty clear, like explicitly and overtly clear, that PvP is part of the game and is an expected part of the game. So I'm not honestly super concerned. I mean, obviously they could be like, you know, if it's not on the pledge store and it's just speculative, you know, but who knows? Like last I've heard, and over the years, the numerous times I've heard, PvP is very much on the menu and expected and authorized and normal and part of the plan, you know. So,
game for everyone is a game for no one. All right, guys. Well, everyone, tune in next time for yet another PvP versus PvE debate on the Black Box.
Enjoy the future, where you'll have found out more about Squadron 42 than we know currently.
2028, please tell me.
All right. CIG, fix the game so we can play it, please. Okay? This is bullshit.
Indeed.
Any other closing thoughts, guys?
Buy more ships. Just kidding.
No cash till the game works. #. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll catch you later.
Bye.